Hi guys and welcome. So some of you may have seen that we have a craze for dinner rolls in the last few days. So it was suggested that I show you guys how to make them. So super easy, and a lot of people wouldn't have thought it would be that easy. So the first thing you need to do is have your milk in a bowl. I have 240 mils of milk, which is 1 cup for our North American people. Half a cup of warm water, which is 120 mils, and I'll pop that in there. The other thing I need is 50 grams of sugar, and that's 1/4 of a cup. We don't use cups at all, so this is all new for me. And melted butter, another 1/4 cup, which is 60 mils of melted butter. I'm going to pop all those things in there, and the most important thing now is that this is slightly warm. So I know by feeling it that the milk has has cooled down my warm water. By adding the warm water, you're making this a warm environment for the yeast to grow. You need moisture, heat, and sugar for the yeast to get activated. So I'm going to pop this in the microwave just for a couple of seconds to just get it nice and warm. I'll be right back. So guys, I had that in the microwave for about 40 seconds. And you know, if you have a clean hand and you dip your hand in, it's just slightly warm, okay? So that's what we're going for. And what I'm going to add to that is my yeast. If you have one of those little sachets, it's just 1 sachet. I have a bigger bag here, so I need 2.5 teaspoons of just dried yeast. So I'm going to pop that in there. There's a half. And 1 and 2. I'm going to give it a quick stir to get everything moving around there, get the sugar to mix through, and then I'm going to leave this to sit for about 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, until you start to see little bubbles appear in the top of this mixture, and that's you know that the yeast is then activating. So I'm just going to sit it in a warm place, which for me is over here on the Aga, and we'll crack on and get the next bit ready. So while that's activating, I'm going to use my mixer today, but if you don't have a mixer, you can do this by hand. And I'm going to put 4 cups of plain flour, which is how much? 500 grams, okay? Now I'm using my Polish flour because I love how light, and it's like a double sieved Italian flour. Which I've made this with plain flour as well. So for my North American people, that's all-purpose flour. Right, I have that in there. I'm going to pop in a pinch of salt in here. And the other thing I am going to add is my egg, okay? So I'm just going to crack my egg in here. Because I'm using the mixer, it doesn't have to be pre-beaten or anything like that. And then in a few minutes, I'll come back and show you how I add all this stuff together, okay? So here guys, as you can see, I don't know if you want to bring that over a little closer, it's just starting to bubble up there a little bit and look frothy. Can you see that? So that's what I'm going to add now to my flour, salt and egg in here, okay? If you're doing this by hand, you can go ahead and add it. And I'm not going to add it all because the last day that I made this, I found the mixture was very wet. So I'm just going to add it slowly. And what you're doing now is you're combining all the ingredients together until it starts to pull together. So if you're doing this by hand at home, you put everything in a bowl and you mix it all together, and then you take it out on a floured surface and you knead it with the palm or this part, the heel of your hand. Push in, pull back, push in, pull back, and do that for about 5 to 10 minutes. And you know when it's done, if you lift up a piece of the dough and you stretch it a little bit and it doesn't tear, just it's stretchy. Does that make sense? Or the other way, if you kind of put your finger on the dough, it will kind of bounce back up a little bit. Then you know you've kneaded enough. What you're doing with the kneading process is you're stretching the gluten, and that's what makes your dough. I was not good at microbiology in college, where we learned about all these things, how the dough works and all that kind of stuff. But I think it's easier when when it's practical. Well, it's on a stethoscope, not a stethoscope, what do you call it? Microscope. Just in one ear. So anyway, my dough is actually quite thick there, so I'm going to add another little bit. And I'm not going to add that last little bit there because I don't want it to be too runny. So I don't know if you can see in here. I'm gonna keep mixing that for another I leave it on there for about 4 minutes, and then I'll take it off. If I need to, I can add more flour to it if it's too runny, because if it's too runny, you can't shape your dinner rolls. So we'll be right back. So here we go, guys. This is what we're looking for here. What I really wanted to show you actually was I actually had to add probably another half a cup of flour, maybe a quarter cup of flour, because it just, what you want, I don't know if you can see in here, is you want none of the dough sticking to the bowl. You want it all to come together, and that's when you know you have the right ratio between flour and liquid, okay? So I had to add another, maybe a quarter cup, and you know what? You'll get to the point where you'll figure that out yourself. No matter what a recipe tells you, sometimes even the size of your egg can make a difference to how much flour you need to add. So I have a clean bowl here. I'm just going to splash a little bit of olive oil in there, and just using your clean hands, rub the olive oil all the way around, and that's just going to help prevent the dough from sticking when it rises. Sometimes, oh, this can be hard to move. So I'm just gonna pop my dough in here, like this. Now it's a very stiff dough. Hope I haven't added too much flour. It is typical, isn't it? Sorry about that noise, that's the soup maker. I've been making soup while the dough has been working here. Anyway, so that is it. You just leave it in there. Put a clean tea towel over the top and put it somewhere nice and warm to rise. So I'm just going to pop it over here on top of my aga, and you leave it for an hour to rise, okay? So you got to plan this ahead of time. Our guys are coming in from school now in the next few minutes, so I didn't really plan it properly. I should have done this an hour ago, but at least the soup will be ready. So when the hour is up, this will have doubled in size, and I'll come back to you and show you what to do next. So here we go, guys. That is about, yeah, it's a little bit over an hour. And look at the size of that. It's huge, absolutely huge. So what we're going to do now is clean hands, knock it back. So we're just going to punch it down like that. And we're going to use a floured surface here and start shaping it into the bread rolls, dinner rolls. So just pop it out like that. It should come easily enough. If not, just use your spatula to scrape the edges of the bowl. It's actually quite warm now because of the heat in the aga. So I'm just going to dust my hands in a little bit of flour and just knead it back for a minute or so, just to get the shape that you want. So the next step is to cut it into your dinner rolls. So I'm going to make this into 16 rolls, and if you have one of those great dough cutters, now's a good time to whip it out. Just can't find mine. I know it's over there somewhere, but I can't find it, so I'm just going to use a knife, right? So I'm basically going to cut it in half, okay? And then cut this in half again. This is where your math comes in. Each one of these then has to be cut into 4 pieces, okay? Just roll it out, try and get it as even as you can, and there you go, 4 pieces, okay? So the next step is you're going to shape this into a ball, okay? So just roll your hand around the surface like that, like to get it into the shape, and then just using your fingers. Do you want to bring the camera a tiny bit closer? Using your fingers, push the dough underneath like that, and you're tucking it in underneath like this together, and then the top of it is a lovely smooth shape. Does that make sense? I'll do one more just to show you. Flatten it on the surface here first to get it nice and round shaped, okay? Then tuck in underneath. See the way I'm trying to get all the creases out from the top so that it is a nice smooth surface, and just pull it in underneath to a nice round shape like that. Doesn't that look good? I'm going to continue with this, and when I have them all done, I'll show you the next step. So here we go, guys. I have them all shaped nicely here, and they need to sit now for another 30 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes, and you'll see them rise again, and they may even touch each other, which is fine because you've got that torn bread look. I'm going to cover them with a clean tea towel and pop them back over here onto the heat to rise for another bit. If you don't have a cooker like this, you could find somewhere warm in your kitchen to place them to keep them warm. I'll be back in a bit. Here we go, guys. Half an hour later. Woo, look at that. They look so amazing. So in the cup here I have a little bit of I just have one egg, and I'm just going to beat it together. And I'm going to brush the top with a little bit of beaten egg. I might add a tiny drop of milk to that, because this is where you need to be careful that you don't flatten what has risen beautifully. Now you have your oven preheated at this stage to, let me tell you, 375 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 190 Celsius. So that should cover all the territories. And you just lightly brush the top of your buns like that and pop it into the oven for about, how long? 25 to 30 minutes. I'm going to put a few little sesame seeds on the tops of these ones here. If I had, I totally would be using poppy seeds because we love poppy seeds, but I actually don't have any. And that's it, you pop them in the oven. So I'll continue doing this, and I'll pop them in the oven, and I'll show you what the finished product is like. They just, I know the feel of them, they feel spongy. Now I have made these without an egg in the dough. We've tried a couple of different recipes, and I find the ones that don't have egg in the dough are just doughier. They're not as light and fluffy in the middle. Don't you think, Grace? Grace is my big dinner roll eater. How many did you have yesterday? 10! You did not. She could not have had 10. There's no way you would have got away with having 10 in this house. So they're not all exactly the same size, but that's the art of bread making, that not everything is always the same. If you want to be completely precise about it all, you could make them all exactly the same. I am not going to be like that. I'm just going to... Should I put them all in seeds, Grace? Or just a few? Okay, into the oven for a half an hour, and then I'll be back. Check them maybe halfway through and turn them around. Here we go, guys. I have to say, this doesn't normally happen where things are perfect for the camera, but these are pretty perfect. Don't they look amazing? And guess what? That only took like less than 15 minutes. So be careful with the time. Always check your stuff halfway through the actual suggested time. So I'm just gonna, they're really, really hot. See if we can open one up here to give you a peek of what's inside. And it's kind of hard to tell. Look at that. Lovely. Oh my gosh, the smell is amazing. Hope you get a chance to make these, guys. God bless. See you soon.